Okay, so I'm Jane Moody from Drift IT Services, and this is our second episode of Drift Meets. I don't think episode's the right word. Interview for Drift Meets, and today we are basing all of our questions around cybersecurity, and we've got a cybersecurity expert, Heather Hadfield, that we'd like to introduce you to. And Heather's got quite a fantastic job title, so please introduce yourself, Heather.
Thanks. I'm Heather Hadfield. I'm the consortium manager at South East Grid for Learning. So I look after 11 local authorities that are in our consortium, and the schools that are connected through them through broadband primarily. But also, I also sit on the advisory group for the newly formed South East Cyber Resilience Centre, which is a police-led centre. They're all around the country, all regional, and their remit is really to support SMEs, businesses, schools and charities around cyber awareness and and training. So my role, particularly on the advisory group, is to champion education and schools particularly. So obviously that's my area of expertise. Yes.
Perfect credentials for us. Okay, so I've got my three questions. We'll try and keep it to 5 minutes, but I'm sure you've got loads to say, so I'm going to try best. Our first question is, why is cybersecurity important? I mean, obviously, overall, it's a very important subject, but particularly to schools, why is it important to have awareness?
Yeah, I think at the moment, what is happening, we're seeing obviously in the news, there's a lot more about cybersecurity, but I think for schools specifically, historically, I don't think they've ever seen themselves as a business in that sense, as a sort of traditional sense. But what we're trying to get across is that criminals see schools as a perfect target because they've got important data that they hold, and they also have money. And that's really all they're after. They don't have any ethics when it comes to choosing their victims. So what we're seeing now, particularly with the rise of through COVID, is education establishments, that schools, that might be nurseries and colleges and universities being targeted now, particularly with malware and ransomware, quite heavily. So obviously we're trying now to do a huge education push for schools around that, and just really make them aware that this is a problem that's increasing every month, and that schools really need to start taking it seriously and take some steps to kind of address this and protect themselves going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Even just on Twitter, all of the people that I follow on Twitter, I can see I was going to say a trend, not a specific Twitter trend, but lots of the people that we follow have more cyber resilience, cyber security resources, and heading that way at the moment. So that's good.
Definitely.
How can schools create more cyber security awareness without being really scary or making everybody worry or lose sleep? How can they get that balance?
Yeah, it is a tricky one, because I think when you mention cybersecurity to schools, particularly if they don't have, so primary schools, if they don't have an internal IT team, as traditionally, if you mention cybersecurity to most schools, they will go, oh, that's an IT issue, put it over there.
Yeah.
A bit like online safety used to be, a long time ago. Oh, it's got IT in it, someone else's problem. And, we've learned that lesson from online safety. Actually, it's a whole school problem, and so cyber, because so many incidents of cyber attacks generally are human related, so human behavior related. So what I would say to all schools is the bare minimum is staff awareness training. Everybody, not just teaching staff, and office staff particularly, because they're more likely to be the ones picking up emails that are coming in. But everybody have some cyber security awareness training. NCSC, so the National Cyber Security Centre, which is part of GCHQ, have just released a fantastic pack for schools that they can run through, that goes through some training to support all staff. So that would be a really great starting point for schools. And that's something that I would, write into your inset days, making sure that you update. This is regular things, but and like online safety, it's built in, it's you do it regularly, and you monitor who's done it, when they've done it. I think that's really important for key messages for example, parents. A bit like online safety again, you can drip feed messages through websites, social media, newsletters, however you communicate with your parents and carers. Your school's best, so you know what works for them. You can also do it on parents event, evenings and things like that. Obviously you've got a lot to get through, so but it's quite you can just put in some little tips in there if you want.
But
also,
little and often is a
drip
good
feed.
Yeah, then it's not a whole school panic about learning more than they can possibly learn, but keeping on top of it.
It's a really good, exactly. And another fantastic resource that I would say from a teaching's perspective, so what we're trying to do is obviously build a very digital, cybersecurity aware society, because children are coming up, the digital devices are everywhere, and they have got to be cyber savvy themselves. So I would say to teachers, if look at a resource called Project Evolve. It's a maturity framework tool. It's totally free. It's so it's Project Evolve with Southwest Grid for Learning, and it's fantastic. It goes from early years, so nursery right up to 18, and it basically highlights what pupils should be looking at and studying at certain age ranges. So different key stages.
Interesting. I haven't come across that one.
It's really and they've got some lesson plans in there, so really nice tool to be able to pick out for teachers to say, okay, actually we need to do some work around passwords, for example, like password security, identity. It's got different themes in there, and obviously they mature as you go through the key stages, so it's really useful.
That is a brilliant one.
Teachers to look at that.
Fantastic. And our last question, I know you've probably covered some of these already, but what are maybe some 3 or 5 top tips that schools can take away right now to go, okay, well, if I only remember 3 things from this little chat, it is.
I would say the key message I'd like to get across is it's not if, it's when this will happen. So the likelihood of you having a cyber incident is increasing daily. It would be most schools, will stop things coming through. They might see a phishing email, but I would say, so get your head around thinking about actually when this happens. Do we know what to do? Like, have you got a plan in place? Again, NCSC have got some great resources to be able to guide you. What happens if we have a cyber incident? You need to have details about action fraud, because they're the police arm that you report any cybersecurity cyber breaches to. And they will help you. I would have an audit in your school, so have a plan, a policy, even if it's a really, really simple one, because I think schools get a bit scared about cybersecurity. They know there's an issue, but actually moving from knowing there's an issue to actually doing something about it. So just start that journey. Okay, understand, who do we have contracts with? Who does our IT support? Do we have their contact details? What are they doing about securing, our security? What's that relationship like? Ask them questions. Again, NCSC have got questions you can ask them about, okay, what do they do with their data? How do they protect you? And that is really important, because you're relying on them to keep all your devices up to date. And that's really important when you to ensure that all software has been updated regularly. If they're not doing that, you need to know, because that's putting you at risk. So it's having an audit in place. If you do have an attack, do you know what to do? Have you got contact details of various people? Do you have, for example, if you've got IP telephony across the school, if that goes down because of an attack, do you have a backup? Do you have mobile phones? Do you have an analog phone that you can use? Little things like that. You need to just have a plan that you can go through on a regular basis and just update. I think that's really important. The other thing I would say is, which is easy to implement, is have a culture of questioning. It's really important that staff do not feel silly by saying, you know what, I've got this email and it says it's from DFE, but I'm not too sure it's, you know, because the criminals are getting so sophisticated while how they target schools. It can look really genuine. And even, you know, it would just ask a colleague or ring up, look on the website, don't go through any links within the actual email, look up independently on websites, ring them and say, look, have you emailed us? And no one's going to say you're being ridiculous. You know, it's really, really important that there is a culture of this questioning. Like we teach children, you know, question things. That's you know, and it's really important that exists within the school culture, that people just don't feel silly. I think that's really, really strong thing.
And it's so much better to feel silly and there be no problem than there to be a problem and you just feel awful because you felt something was wrong and you thought, oh well, that one didn't feel right.
Exactly. And fraudulent emails, so the biggest rise in cybersecurity attacks have been through fraudulent emails and through malware that are coming through dodgy emails. So on those two issues, it really is human behavior. We are the ones who are opening those emails, they're downloading things or clicking on things that we shouldn't be. So your best level of defense is to stop that and to create that culture of we're not expecting this, who is this, you know. And I know Jane, you're going to post on Chris White's presentation. He talks a lot about hovering over email addresses and things like that, so he gives you a few tips on how you can kind of have a quickly check whether something's genuine or not. So that's well worth looking at. And finally, the biggest thing I think in schools is passwords. Make sure you have a strong password and that everybody has one. It's really, really important. I don't know, I mean, I'm talking a long time ago when I used to go into schools a lot. You know, it was still password 123, or you know, it was like, you know, that just can't happen anymore. You've got to instill in everybody that they've got to have strong passwords and ideally two-factor authentication. So most schools now are moving towards a Google or Microsoft platform 365. They both have two-factor authentication. Please put that in place, because that just gives you an extra level of security, that if someone hacks in and gets your password, then there's an extra level of security that's going to stop them getting into your accounts and causing havoc.
Brilliant. Oh, I'm so grateful, Heather. You've just mentioned we've got another video that we're going to post alongside this, which Chris has kindly put together for us. And also separately, you've just listed so many fantastic resources. Can I just get all of those from you, and then I'll email them to all of our schools? I think and maybe we'll list them all on the post or email them. That's fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Heather. I'm really pleased that we found you, and that's going to be really useful to so many people. So thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.